My story actually begins 1971, February 16, at about 2 a.m. in the morning. There was a knock at my grandmother's door in Jamaica, in Westmoreland, in a very small town called Heron Peace. This frantic knock at my grandmother's door at 2 a.m. was coming from my uncle, who came to tell us that my mother, who had been on her way to Kingston because she was seeking a better life for her children, was in a fatal car accident. You see, back then, and sometimes, and now too, in certain areas of Jamaica, the roads they're small, they're tiny, it's windy. And so she was in a taxi cab with 5 other people. And the taxi driver lost control of the car. And my mother, almost 50 years now, and I still gets me. My mother was thrown from the car, and she hit the back of her head. And she was heard saying 2 things. One was because my grandmother, every single day of our lives before we left the house, made us say the Lord's Prayer. So one was the Lord's Prayer, the very first thing that my mother said as she laid there with the life breath leaving her. Next was asking God to take care of her children, to make sure that they were going to be protected, that they were going to be okay. And it was as if that last breath from my mother's mouth went right to my aunt, who lived here in Canada. And so shortly after my mom's death, I immigrated with my other siblings to Toronto. I lived at Jane and Woolner. I hear Jane Street has been pretty big today so far as we speak. I lived at Jane and Woolner in housing. And the woman who became my mother, you guys will hear a joke sometimes, they talk about Jamaicans working the minimal of 3 jobs. My husband just did his thing because he knows he's one of those people. But my mom worked 3 jobs. She went to school because she knew she wanted to do exactly what my mother had asked her to do, to take care of her children. So she went to school. She decided to start her own business, and she bought a restaurant. And from that woman, and from Jane and Woolner, with the people that I was privileged enough to be around, a multitude of people, because my mom worked the 3 jobs, because she was in school, we needed other people to help us. And that's what Canada for me represents. You have a multitude of people who will make sure that after school you've got something to eat, yeah? You have a multitude of people that will make sure that there are programming, government programming that you can go to, so you're not on the street. So while I had friends that sometimes drugs took them over, sometimes pregnancies, early pregnancies, was their reality. I had an opportunity because I saw people that looked like me in positions of power, and young people who decided that they were going to go off to university. I'll never forget Devin Hansen. He's still such a good friend of ours today. And he just always made sure that he did the right thing. And I saw that and knew that this is what I wanted to do. But it's interesting, guys. I know we talk about Canada and issues that affect us as immigrants. And can I tell you that, yeah, I experienced a lot of negativity? No, I didn't. but I experienced some that leaves you breathless sometimes, and it stays with you for a lifetime. So I've had 2 fights in school. 2 fights. One was Greg. I'm not going to say his name because millions of people will see this. Yes? Yes, yes? Okay. But Greg, I remember I was in grade school, and it was the first time I was called a nigger, the N-word. And so I decided, Greg is like a big guy. I was little. And I'm deciding I'm going to stick up for myself. Bad choice. Bad choice. I remember Greg chasing me down. I broke my nose because I didn't see the building in front of me as I'm running away from Greg. You know, he's coming. I hit the building, broke my nose. Second time I had another fight was with some girls in gym class that decided, in the bathroom, that my hair, what's wrong with your hair? How come sometimes it's long and the other times it washes and it shrinks up? They didn't understand it. Started playing with my hair. We had another fight because then again, the N-word. Second time I broke my nose because we were fighting. And I got a punch in the nose that hit me like, whoa, you know? So you remember these things as you're growing up. But does that stop you on your journey here in Canada? It doesn't. It doesn't. So I go back to Jane and Woolner, where I felt this cushion, where I felt I was around people that loved me, that made sure that I was going to do what I needed to do. So even with people that I knew that was on the streets, doing drugs, selling drugs, when they saw Sophia Brown coming, they're like, leave her alone, y'all, leave her alone. Sophie's going somewhere, I'm going to work. I'm going to work. And I had people, like my teachers, left one day to go to work, was in a car with one of our friends, and got into a car accident. Can you believe that? My mother died in a car accident. I spent most of my life until I was 25 thinking I was going to die in a car accident like my mom. I looked very much like my mom, behaved very much like her. Got into a car accident. Hurt my back really badly. But you know what? Who came to my rescue? My last year in high school, my teachers came to my school, came to my house, and taught me because I couldn't go to school. I was in the brace. 1 year. I think y'all need to clap out my teachers for that. And it was one of my teachers, Mr. Gowett, who happened to be a Caucasian man, married to a Jamaican, who led me to love reading. And what books did he tell me to read? Books by Black authors, because he knew how important it was for me to understand where I come from. He knew how it was important to me to understand, to look at what's the best of who we are. Because sometimes in Canada, let's face it, we don't always see it. We don't always see it. So let's just move forward a little bit to today. I come into the house and I hear my daughter on the phone talking to her friend. And she says, can you believe this? My mother is going to go and speak in front of the Senate. Don't they know she was like born in a cane field? But this is what's happening, right? So in Canada, you're able to do whatever you want to do. As long as you remember who you are. You're looking at a melting pot. In Jamaica, we call it a pepper pot soup. Because it's all of us in this room coming together, giving of ourselves, doing the very best that we can do to show out and love in and embrace each other to make the very best of this beautiful country. And to that I have to say, thank you so much. Thank you.